Hey everyone. When I think of the issues that I face in education, they are curriculum, testing, funds, and teacher education. When I think about these issues, I feel like major reflection and reform needs to happen in the United States. I think as teachers, students, administrators, parents, we know that something's not right. No one is happy, and a definite change has to come about. I think that comparative education can absolutely help. From what I've read, not necessarily experienced, other countries are doing it pretty differently when it comes to those issues in particular. So I know that it doesn't have to be this way. So whenever I think about the issues, I ask myself, why are we doing this? Why are we doing those things? Are we making changes? I think that it absolutely doesn't hurt to study other countries, see what's working, what's not, and then adapt them to fit within the needs in our society. So not necessarily adopting exactly what they do. I don't think that would necessarily work, but making some changes for the good of our children and our society. So on page 17, they have the list of defenses in comparative education. Some things that I have seen in using these defenses in support of exploring that issue elsewhere in the world. Bullet 4, provide a body of descriptive and explanatory data which allows us to see various practices and procedures in a very wide context that helps throw light upon them. So some things that I think that we really need to take a look at is, and they go hand in hand for me, is curriculum and testing. So when I say curriculum, that's what we're teaching, why we're teaching, and actually how we're teaching it. I think testing, huge issue, has way too much control over our curriculum. It's becoming, if it hasn't already, the curriculum, which is extremely dangerous. We know that the content on the test, that's not what a curriculum should be. So when I think about curriculum, why we're teaching what we're teaching, it's not necessarily because it's relevant or developmentally appropriate. It's not because it's promoting critical thinking. It's probably not what our children need or what they're interested in. So it's not student driven. It's because it's what's on the test. Now, this is obviously not true for every single classroom, but I feel like it is becoming a majority, and we know how important those tests are to our students, to us as educators. There's immense pressure that goes along with it. I think that testing even affects how we teach. How are we delivering this content to them? We know that there's a certain amount of time and certain content that must be delivered. So how are they learning? Is it meaningful? Is it student-driven? Testing even affects the way that our classrooms are set up. I know one of my friends taught third grade, and she told me that she could no longer keep her students in groups, which throughout the day they were working collaboratively, but it took too much time because of all of the testing that they had to do. So instead, they just sat single file because it just took way too much time having to break them up from the groups to take all of the testing that third graders have to do. So I think that we need to be looking elsewhere. And really, why are we giving these tests? I think it's a societal problem. I don't think it's like this everywhere. I don't think everyone is learning as much as they could be, and I don't know if they are loving learning as much as they could. So I think that we really need to find some balance. There is obviously a place for assessment, and there is a place for various types of assessment. I have seen this work when I was outside of public school. So it is not the be-all, end-all to see how teachers are doing and to see if students are growing. We have other options. So to me, that is a huge issue, and it affects our curriculum. And not even curriculum being affected by testing. Curriculum in itself is an issue for me. What we teach, and really being able to look critically at that. Making sure that it's relevant and student-driven, which may look different every year for every different class that we have. I would love to learn more about what other countries are doing there. Bullet 7 has an important supportive and instructional role to play the development of any plans for educational reform when there must be concern or experience elsewhere. So again, I'm going to say we need to reform our curriculum. It's not relevant. It's narrow. It's not serving all of our students. It's not preparing them to be global citizens, so it's hurting them. And I think as teachers, it's hurting us too. Testing, again, it's hurting everyone. And something else is teacher education. I think that we need highly qualified teachers, especially thinking about our Darling Hammond text and thinking about kind of where the schools that teachers are working, maybe like better placement of teachers. They need to be ready to teach global citizens, critical thinkers, students who can work collaboratively. Now, this is different than the way that that school was when we were in school, and depending on where you went to college, different than the way that you were taught to teach. So we really need highly qualified teachers. So to do that, looking at the pre-service teaching requirements and also the training that teachers who are currently in the classroom receive. Lots of support and lots of funds needed. Which brings me to the next issue, which is funding. We need more equitable funding in our schools, and we need to pay our teachers more. So I would love to look elsewhere and see how they're doing those things and how it is working for them. Okay, thanks so much. Can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say.